The Amistad was never meant to be a slave ship, but in 1839, off the coast of Cuba, that's what it became.
Slaves ended up on this boat by some owners that were a little bit shady and took a last-minute purchase. And they were brought onto the vessel in the dead of night, shackled, dressed in sailor garb because they didn't want to get caught.
It was built for supplies and cargo, not human beings. Despite that, 53 African natives were packed onto the ship in extreme conditions. It wasn't long before the captives revolted. Led by Sengbe Pie, they took back the ship.
He's your average everyday farmer from Mende land. He's one of these ordinary people that's put in an extraordinary circumstance, and he rises to the occasion. He becomes the hero of the story.
Today, Connecticut's Mystic Seaport, a replica of the Amistad, sails again, part of the Discovering Amistad initiative. Its mission is to make sure the story and its impact on the nation is never forgotten. It sits in a harbor not far from New London, Connecticut, where the original eventually ended up over 175 years ago.
When the Amistad landed in Connecticut, abolitionists were already organized and they jumped on the case immediately.
The Africans found themselves in a legal battle, even defended by former President John Quincy Adams. At that time, it was not a popular stance to take.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were still very much in support of slavery at this time. It was extremely controversial, and some of the newspapers out of New York especially take a very different perspective, very unsympathetic to the Africans.
The highly publicized case made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
But ultimately they decided they're from Africa, and as free men who had been kidnapped, they had every right to defend themselves and free themselves. And so the Supreme Court ultimately decided that they should be set free.
37 of the captives returned home to Africa in a trip funded by local abolitionists. But the court victory did not end slavery. Far from it.
The Amistad case actually didn't have that big of an impact on Supreme Court law, on precedent, but it was a symbolic case.
The painting of Sengbe Pie, who led the revolt on board the Amistad, became a beacon of hope for slaves all across the nation.
To tell us that progress is possible, that we can keep moving forward, and that there are people like Sengbe Pie and allies like John Quincy Adams and the abolitionists that help them that are continually working for social change. And we see that today.
This is one of those shining moments for abolitionists and others who believe in real equality.
An example of the justice system working.
Being unbiased, being impartial, and allowing the small voice to be held at the same level as those in power.
Connecting the hope, the freedom, fought and won, to the ongoing struggle for social justice across America.
We're still seeing this social change happening through the courts, but then also with a massive amount of support from grassroots organizing and local activists, from children to lawyers to musicians to artists to poets. Everybody's working to make change, and that directly connects to the Amistad story.
Reporting at Mystic Seaport in Connecticut, Scott McDonald.